All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to just start with a deep, deep thank you to Susan Cohen for being here, for writing such an incredibly powerful book. More than writing an incredibly powerful book, for living an empowerful life. Susan is a nationally and internationally recognized immigration lawyer and the founder of the immigration practice at Mintz-Levin, where she now leads a team of 35 incredible beings who work to promote justice and equality and to make sure that immigrants are heard and seen and have a chance to be here in a permanent and safe way. She has chaired and co-chaired a wide range of committees, American Immigration Lawyers Association and the American Bar Association. She contributes to the legislation that's coming into this country and is able to look at it and try to help shape it towards being more just and more righteous. She's won awards from the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts, from the Ryan Immigrant Center, from the Political Asylum and Immigration Representation Project, from the Massachusetts Lawyers Weekly. The list goes on. She is just an incredible being, and she has directed her course for justice in her life. We are also joined by Jackie Colon and Ana Morales, who are here to share their story. And I just want to say at the outset, Jackie and Ana, you are both such incredibly powerful women. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful that you are willing to be present with us tonight and to share your stories tonight. And I'm sorry that we need to be talking about your immigration journey, because we should only be inviting you here to speak about the powerful work of love and compassion that you do in the world and the justice that you bring to this world. And I'm so deeply grateful for your willingness to share your story so that we can become helpful activists and do our part to help make the immigration system in this country more just. I want to just acknowledge before we get started that we are all coming here tonight carrying just the pain and the brokenness of the world that is around us. And we are all just glued to our news feeds, glued to the stories of pain that are coming out across the world, and especially right now in Ukraine. And as we see those stories, as we read those stories, it is so clear the importance of immigration, the importance of countries opening their doors. We as Jews know this deeply. Right? We are taught in our Torah no fewer than 36 times that it is our obligation to welcome the stranger. We know this from the Torah, but we also know this from our lived experience. So many of us are here on this earth because along the way, our ancestors were allowed to find a haven, to find refuge, were welcomed into a different country and allowed to build their lives. So when we do this work of immigration justice, immigration reform, when we do this work of supporting immigrants, we are doing a tikkun, we are doing a healing, a generational healing for all of those ancestors who suffered. We are paying it forward and ensuring blessings to come. So with that, I just want to say thank you, a huge round of Zoom applause, and I'll turn it over to Susan. Susan, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Rabbi Berger and Elisa. And thanks so much from me as well to Jackie and Anna for joining us tonight and sharing your incredible journey and story that I told in the book. And I want to thank everyone who joined us tonight at Temple Emmanuel and those who might join and listen in later to the recording. It means a lot to me, and I know to Jackie and Anna, that we have this time together. So I really appreciate it. I wrote Journeys from There to Here to showcase, certain very important things about immigrants. And I wrote the book during the Trump years. So 2017, 18, 19, when the country was roiled by this just very virulent anti-immigrant agenda that unfortunately played out on the campaign trail with President Trump before he became president, and that he invoked wholeheartedly once he took office, starting with the travel ban, 1 week into his tenure in January of 2017. And I, was working in the trenches, helping individual clients, at their individual immigration cases. And I felt that I needed to do something more than that at the time. So I got involved in as much class action impact litigation as I could to try to put a stop or improve for immigrants some of the conditions on the ground that everyone was facing during those years, stripping away of rights, due process, choking off immigration avenues and options for people, separating families unjustly, people who had approved applications all over the world and were prevented from coming because of the various travel bans, the inability to access the courts, the holding of children and families in cages at the southern border. So I was trying to do whatever I could through impact litigation, in addition to in representing individual clients. But then eventually it felt like it still wasn't enough. Like I was look at myself and my capabilities and my energy level, which was a little bit diminished, but at the same time, because I wasn't sleeping, I didn't sleep much those 4 years. I paced my house. I was experiencing a tremendous amount of existential terror and angst about the future of the justice system and immigrants' rights and the platform and laws and regulations and policies around immigration in the United States. And my heart was breaking for so many people that even though I wasn't sleeping, I had this sort of inner motivation to do something more than those things that I was doing. And so the journeys from there to here came out of that desire to do whatever I could to try to show people what I know to be true about the challenges of the immigration system, the flaws and defective aspects to it, but more importantly, the strength, resilience, and contributions of the majority of immigrants to this country. The narrative was very anti-immigrant. It was xenophobic at the time, and it was untrue for the most part. There was a lot of rhetoric, anti-immigrant rhetoric, and a lot of people were believing it. And I wrote the book to try to bring people into intimate connection with the immigrant experience and to try to bridge the distance between people who don't really know how immigration works, and to show them case by case with the incredible people whose stories I was able to feature, like Jackie and Anna's story, Jackie's family, and the other people in the book, to make it real, so that people could walk alongside these amazing people and see what they overcame to come here, how much the system, all of the different roadblocks that the system throws up in front of people, the ways that cases can go sideways even when people enter the country legally, when they deserve the immigration benefits they apply for, like in Jackie's case, when they do everything right, like Jackie did, it still can go terribly wrong. And there's a lot of myths and misconceptions in the country about immigration. A lot of people think, just fill out a few forms, right? What's the big deal? Get in line, that kind of thing. Well, for those of you who haven't read the book yet or may not have heard Jackie's story, I'm gonna give a short synopsis in a minute about it. But this poor woman, took 20 years to get a green card, which should have only taken 3 or 4 years, and so many things went wrong along the way. And and there's and all along the way, Jackie and her family, they showed so much grit, so much determination, so much faith in God and the universe, but they were just victims of incredible mistakes on the part of a number of different people that we'll talk about. And there's so many people like that, and it's not easy. It's not easy for almost anybody to go through the immigration process, whether it's a really, like extraordinary scientist or somebody doing something else. Whatever the pathways are, they're often very, very difficult, and people are faced with situations not of their own making that sometimes throw their whole process into jeopardy and can force them into deportation proceedings. And it happens much more often than people think. And it's through no fault of the persons, no fault of the immigrants, many, many times. So, I wanted to show the contributions of immigrants, like people like Jackie and her family, show the grit and the strength, the resilience that they bring to this country, the hard work, unbelievably hard work that they contribute, and the contributions that they make to their communities and volunteering, things like that. So the book is really intended to demonstrate a number of themes like that. And so I picked, I had a hard time choosing, but I wanted to show different people's journeys, different immigration pathways. So not just asylum, but family-based immigration, and extraordinary ability cases, people who are, have managed to prove to the government that their work, for example, is in the national interest, and a variety of types of people, men and women from all different parts of the world, who chose different pathways and whose cases had a lot of twists and turns, like many other people's do. But to show how wonderful these people are, how much they bring us, and how lucky we are for them to be among us, to be our neighbors, coworkers, and friends. So I hope the book will open people's eyes to how complicated the process is. And Jackie's case is a really good example of that, because Jackie came, was like close to 1998, 1997, 1998, Jackie. So let's just set the stage, Jackie, for the audience. So you had been married and divorced. You were from the Dominican Republic. Anna, who's with us, and her sister got their green cards through your first husband, but you didn't have a green card. And your other daughter, Paula, didn't have one when you first started the process. You married a second time. You came to the United States legally. You met your second husband, right? You guys got married, and the immigration law allows for you to apply for a green card based on marriage to a U.S. citizen. Your second husband was a U.S. citizen. He sponsored you for a green card. 1998 should have been a piece of cake, right? Very straightforward. Immigration law allows for it for a bona fide marriage. The spouse can sponsor the other spouse, and you get a green card within a year, usually. And then when you get your green card, for the folks in the audience who don't know, and you're married for less than 2 years at the time that the green card is approved, then the immigration law says that you have to come back just under 2 years later and prove to the Immigration Service that you're still married in a bona fide relationship, commingling your assets, filing joint tax returns, living together, that kind of thing. And you have to file a petition to remove the conditions on your green card. So you get a conditional green card. So Jackie got her conditional green card in 1998, right? Mm-hmm. And 2 years later, she and her husband filed a petition to remove the conditions on it. But between the time they filed the petition to remove the conditions, that was in 2000, I think, or 2001, something around that,
yeah,
around that time. They moved, right, from one house to another house. And whenever you move, you have to update the government that you've moved to a new address, so that if you're in the middle of an immigration process, the immigration service knows where to find you and send you notices and things like that. So the move, right? The move was like the source of an unbelievable odyssey that Jackie and her family went through. So you moved, and then you told the government that you moved.
Yes.
And many, many times, and I want to ask you about that, you sent so many letters to them. And, you know, they didn't properly file any of your updates. You sent so many of them. And I've seen all of them in your file, in your immigration file, because we did a Freedom of Information Act request. We saw all the things that the government received from you. You countless times you sent letters to them that they misfiled. So they never got it. So you didn't know that they didn't get, you just never heard, right? You're just waiting and wondering what's going on with your case. Years are going by and you don't know what's going on, right? So, one thing you tried to do was, in addition to making lots of inquiries after not hearing anything, you think you went in person, right? So many times to the immigration office. You asked your work to intervene to try to talk to Congress people, right, Jackie?
Yes, and not only letters, but phone calls. I used to call almost at least once a month at the beginning, but then I was calling basically weekly to see where I was, and they always said that it's in process. We are working on this day, because they work by day. Like
right.
You're working in the year 92, let's say. So you're very far away. But you're like, everything was in process. They never said anything that will be a red flag.
Right. And your case was perfectly normal, approvable, and the conditions should have been removed. Oftentimes they want to invite the couple back for another interview, but usually you would have the interview, bring your documents with you, and that would be that, because you were happily married to your second husband for all those years. But just so the audience understands, you just never heard anything. Like, it was your case went into a black hole. You tried everything in your power to find out what had happened, and we're going to talk about all the things you tried to do. But eventually your marriage broke down, right? And just so everyone knows, the immigration law doesn't require people to stay married forever, right? If a marriage eventually breaks down, that's okay. You don't have to stay married to the same person for the rest of your life to be able to keep your green card. But you need to be in married long enough that you get it. But what happened to Jackie is the government didn't do the right thing with her documents, and it misfiled them. Years and years and years went by, and eventually her marriage broke down. And this is not your fault. This is just the fault of the system. You still hadn't gotten approved, and you didn't know what was going on. So you had people checking for you, and finally a congressperson, right, was able to bring you some really devastating news, right? After so many years, you learned, like, to your utter horror, like, and complete dismay, years later, that the immigration service, because it didn't get your change of address forms and didn't process them correctly, sent a notice to your old address for you and your husband to go for one of those interviews, which should have been a very normal, simple matter that would have disposed of everything, and you would have had your permanent green card. And by my estimation, you would have had it in 2002, 2003, you know, and then you would have been done. And then we're talking about now we're in 2022. I didn't meet you till 2016, right? And all those years, you tried so many ways to fix the situation. But I just want people to understand that what happened to Jackie was just devastating. She found out through this congressional inquiry years after trying so hard to get information about her case and doing everything in her power to do everything right. She found out that the government had called her and her husband to an interview that they never got the notice for because they sent it to the wrong address. It was never forwarded. They didn't get anything. They didn't know about it. And then because they didn't show up to that, also unbeknownst to Jackie and her family, later that same year, U.S. Immigration Court called her for an immigration hearing, which of course she didn't get a notice for because it went to the wrong address. And because she didn't show up for an immigration hearing, it was like a deportation type hearing because they were saying, well, why didn't you attend your interview? You know, you have to prove to us why we shouldn't deport you. Poor Jackie, unbeknownst to her, was deported in absentia by the immigration judge because she didn't attend a hearing that she didn't know about, because she hadn't attended an interview that she didn't know about, because the government sent everything to the wrong place, right? In a nutshell. Mm-hmm. And she found out about this years and years later. So Jackie, I would like you to share with the audience, if you can manage. And Anna, I'm going to ask you some really important questions too, you know, in a little bit. But can you just talk a little bit about what it was like before you even knew that this had happened to you? What was it like to try to find out for years what was happening in your immigration case? What was it like? How did it feel? Did you feel like that our government was responsive? What was it like to try to have to get information from the, you know, immigration service at that time when you were just in the dark, not understanding what was happening with your case? What was it like?
It was very, very hard and nerve-wracking because there were days that I know I was doing everything I needed to do to, you know, like you said, to find out what was going on, but nobody had an answer. So what gave me kind of sense of peace was to know that I was reaching out to them, and I was constantly sending letters, fax. One of my employers as well reached out to them, and we talked about that before. So, but going day by day, and you being in a limbo that you don't know what's going to happen the next day or the next hour. You go to work or you go out to the supermarket, but you don't know if you're going to be able to get back home and see your family. It is devastating. It's like you don't belong anywhere. And even going out at work or with friends, you don't feel that you belong. You feel like you're there, but you don't belong nowhere. And the anxiety of seeing my daughters going to school, but not knowing that maybe tomorrow I won't be able to bring them to school, or maybe I won't be able to take care of my parents and provide for them. It's something that honestly, I do not want to see anybody going through it. It is awful. And it was just the hope and the hope in God that kept me going, knowing that He was always near me and providing and giving me the strength day by day. That was honestly, it's the only way that I was able to go through it all those years.
And what about that moment when you couldn't get any information for years, and then you find out right, that you had been, like, how, what was that moment like, for everybody? What was it like for you? And you mean, like, you get this, I think it was an email, right? Or a phone call?
I got a phone call. The office of the congressman got the email. Yeah. And they called me. So they told me, you need to find someone to go deeper into this, but you cannot go beyond, like those documentation that you submitted. they won't be processed because your status is to be removed, like to be deported. And I'm like, what?
Right.
Oh, and I couldn't understand. So I was like, how is this happening? Not in the United States. This
Right.
cannot be happening. I've been doing everything. So I tried to call people that could guide me and tell me what to do. I called my friend, who I thank her for guiding me. And she told me, you know what? Don't stress more than what I was already. I was crying. I didn't want to tell my family. I didn't want to tell my daughters. I didn't want to worry them. It was just me basically just dealing with all those emotions and everything that could happen. So I went to a lawyer that I was referred to, and that person promised me that was going to take over the case and work in the case, and everything was going to be okay. But it didn't happen. Nothing was done.
What happened? Like, how did that work?
That person just asked me every time, met with me. We went through everything that happened, all the papers. I brought it to him, asked me for a lot of money every time that I went, almost on a monthly basis, or every 2 weeks, he will send me a bill I will have to pay. I mean, I got into a lot of debts in credit card because I didn't have that money that he was asking me for, but I was paying through cards. And years passed, and the only thing that he did was, I haven't heard anything from them. I'm working on your case. He will send me like a brief summary of what he did on the case and attached to a bill. And that went on and on and on, but it didn't go anywhere. Nothing was done.
That was for years, right?
That was for years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. And you had other lawyers, because I think I was your fourth or fifth lawyer, right? Your last one.
Yeah.
But you had this very challenging situation of trying to find a lawyer who would turn this around for you, right? Yes. During this time that you're waiting and hoping that the lawyers are gonna actually dig you out of this nightmare that you found yourself in, which you never expected to be, it was like the furthest thing, right, that you ever thought would happen to you. You had to work, right?
Yes.
And you had, your other daughter had come, right, by years before. So Anna and her sister were with you, and you were supporting them and your parents, right, at some point. So can you tell everybody, because I want everyone to understand how hard you worked, because it's incredible, but it's also very representative of so many immigrants who work so hard in this country and contribute so much. So I would just like you to share a little bit about what you did. How did you support yourself? What kind of jobs did you do? What was your schedule like? Can you just share? Because I know for years and years, worked a lot of jobs, and, I can't imagine that many hours of work in 1 week, but can you describe it for people? Because I think people should hear.
I used to work 7 days a week. I didn't have a break. I remember getting up at 5 a.m. I'm gonna cry, I'm sorry. And going into a company to build computers. So get out of there at 2:30, pick up Anna at a babysitter, and bring her with me, go to the house, make something to eat, and bring her with me to the laundromat where I had a part-time from 3:30 to 10 o'clock at night. That was Monday through Friday. So I didn't get home until 10:30, 11. On Saturdays.
So wait, you started at 5 a.m. You got up at 5 and you got home at 10:30 and 11? Okay.
And then Saturdays, I will go and take care of an elderly woman in Nashua. I'll bring both of them with me. We'll get up at 5. I'll take care of them and of that woman until 3 in the afternoon. And then I will drive back to Lawrence and bring them to the house. And then I'll go back. Anna sometimes wanted to go with me again to the laundromat. She'll go with me to the laundromat and she will stay with me until 10 or 10:30, whatever time I finish. Sunday, my days were, at one point I was a receptionist for Saint's home. So I will work there either Sunday the whole day from 6 in the morning to 10 at night, or I will split the 6 to 3 at Saint's home, and then the rest of the day I will go to the laundromat. So those were my 7 days. Like, yeah, it was working in whatever, yeah, to make
So,
it.
no days off, no time off.
No,
Yeah.
no. And
you had to pay the lawyer,
I
right?
had to pay the lawyer, and I remember, and I always say thank you, God, because I don't know how I did it. There was a time that I had $47 left. That's all I had left to buy food.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'll go to a supermarket near the house, save a lot, and I'll buy eggs, a gallon of milk, 1 cereal, 1 box of cereal, what else? Like things that they liked and that I know they were going to eat. But it was like that every week. And I had a vending machine. I remember I have bought a vending machine, and I used to get my gas money from there because
Wow.
I will, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You remember this, Anna?
Yes. And now that I understand a little bit more about how the system works, I do want to add that because my mom works so much, both like taxable hours, legal hours, and under the table, that we actually by law did not qualify for any SNAP or WIC benefits. We couldn't do it. And
Right.
so even if we wanted to get assistance, there is no way to get that help.
Right.
And as a kid growing up with your parents, when you see them leave their country behind, like everything that you know, because you understand at a young age that they're trying to give you something better, you don't really complain, but you start to think that the way you're living is normal. So like it was normal for me as a 6, 7, 8-year-old to work with my mom and have my parents work and my mom work until 10, 11 o'clock at night. And that is not normal. No, it's not normal.
But you do what you have to do.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure everyone understands that you were legally entitled to that permanent green card. You should have had it. You should have had uninterrupted legal authorization to work in the country. It was not your fault. It was completely the government's fault. And this happens to a lot of people. You had the work authorization and you lost it through no fault of your own. Eventually you got it again, and we'll get back to that. But you were thrown into this circumstance, right, through no fault of your own. You're trying to survive and get your immigration case back on track. So what was it like, once you knew that, you were ordered deported and you were trying to fix the situation? It just must have been like, you said you tried to keep it from the family, but just what was it like knowing that you were so at risk all of a sudden, like from one day to the next, all of a sudden, like your world is like falling apart, right? But you have to pretend like everything's okay, right? But like, what did it feel like for you to drive, or like, how was it for you driving? Did you worry about, like, every time you got in the car? Like, can you describe like how it felt inside, like to have to navigate your life knowing that there was this giant black cloud all of a sudden over your head? Like, well, the way you lived, the way, even just going to do errands and things like that.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned to you that when I found out that I was in order for deportation, Anna got an ulcer in her eye.
Right.
At that time, I had to go to Boston every day for a whole week or a week and a half. I was driving to Boston with her every single day. So imagine me driving to Boston to take my daughter to be treated. And it was always a risk. Like I was driving, it was just praying and with God's protection and just asking him, you know what? You have me here for a reason. I know you protect me. I know you're the one that supports me and I trust and I'm just going to go. And if this is what I need to do for my daughter, I'll do it. So I just did it. I just did it in my faith in God and knowing that he was with me. Honestly, it was just what kept me going and doing the things that I needed to do because it was not easy for me to leave my house. And every time that I saw a police car, I thought that they were following me or that they were going to stop me. And thank God that never happened.
I mean, could you feel that in your body? Like if that had been me, I know my heart would have started beating faster. And
not only me, at one point, Anna will say to me, like, just don't, mommy, keep driving. It's not for you. It's not for you. It's not for us. Just keep driving. Like Anna was the one, like I said before, that knew what was going on. She was the older. And I had to tell her, like if you see that mommy is taken away, this is what you need to do. Because my parents, they don't know English. She was the oldest one. So I needed to tell her what was happening. And
do you remember that, Anna? Do you remember when she told you?
Yes.
Yeah. How old were you?
I was between the ages of 10 and 13.
Wow.
Those are not things you forget because you learn, your body almost becomes accustomed to living in anxiety. So as an adult now, it's been extremely hard for me to learn how to live in a sense of peace that isn't connected to anxiety. And even like the ulcer that I got when I was a kid, it was all stress induced.
Was stress induced because of your mother's situation?
Right. And because you're thinking like, I remember at the time, like knowing the sacrifice that my mom was making for my sister and I to be in America and go to school and get educated. I really wanted to go to college. I really wanted to do something that meant something in this world. And I just felt like if my mom has to leave, then how will my sister and I survive here alone? And I remember my little sister and I like creating plans of like who we would go live with, what jobs we would take, like what we would do in order to make sure we could at least stay in America and minimally go to college here. And that is a lot for a 14 and 7-year-old to be plotting.
Yes, that's amazing. It's a very overwhelming thing to have to go through as kids, to try to figure out how you're going to survive and achieve your dreams. But your mom was fighting for you all the time for you to achieve your dreams. I've never seen a more motivated mom.
I always told her, if I have to work more hours, I'll do it. But God is going to have to add more hours to the day so I can work. But you're going to college. And she used to say, don't worry, mommy, I'm going to go with a full ride. And she did. She did. Praise God. Yeah.
Yeah, you did an amazing job. And Anna and you and your sister have just accomplished so much already. You're just amazing role models following in your mom's footsteps. But I want to talk about that because Jackie, didn't you say to me that there were things that you wanted to apply for them that you were but you afraid to, right? Because you're afraid of jeopardizing everything. Like there things that you had to do differently than you otherwise would have done for the girls?
Before they went into high school, the teachers were always calling me. For both of them, it happened. Oh, we have these scholarships that you can apply. I'm pretty sure that Anna will get there. And when was Paola's time, they will call me as well and let me know. And the teachers were, I'll write the letters, I'll do all the forms. She's a good student, she should go there. But I couldn't do it because they would ask me for my information and I didn't have any of that. What am I going to present? So I will have to lie not only to the teachers, but to them as well. Like saying, oh, no, I don't want you to go that far. If you go to a private high school, it's going to be harder for me to be able to get help and send you to college and things like that. I'll make
all these things to protective measures that you, and that adds to the stress, right? You can't like be honest and just because you're so scared, right? Unbelievable. Yeah. All the ways, you know, it's like a vortex is like choking you guys, you know, just unbelievable. I don't think, and I want to share that with the audience because I think so many people don't really understand like how this can just, you know, create so many layers of issues and anxieties and emotional trauma and stress. And like Anna, you were talking about, you know, just there's so many ways that you're impacted, right? When you're thrust into this kind of terrible situation, you know, and you know, you have to make really hard choices and decisions, right? So why don't we talk a little bit about what happened when, you know, the shoe dropped and, you know, you knew one day your number was going to be up, right?
Yes.
And yes, let's talk about that and just where you each were, like Anna, where you were when that happened. Jackie, tell the audience, just when we're going to move on to questions soon. Let's tell the audience what happened like that day that they finally came for you.
Well, I was cooking and I saw the lights through the window. So I knew that
the police lights.
Yeah.
So
I knew that they were coming to my house. So I just went to the door. I didn't even, honestly, I knew it. I had a beautiful morning that day, beautiful service at church. And something in me just told me, you know, they're there for you. So I just went to the door and they asked me if I was Jackie Colon. And I said, yes, I am. And they said, do you know why I'm here? And I say, yes, I do. So there were 3 officers, a lady and 2 gentlemen. And I always, and I told you this, I said to my house came Father, God, and the Holy Spirit, because they treated me really good. They were very respectful. And the lady that came was amazing. And the way that she approached me gave me so much peace. Even I started crying at one point when I opened the door and I say, yes, I know. I started crying and they kind of, you know, no, don't cry. This is good that is happening. Finally, like your case is going to start moving. This is basically what they said. I was good that was happening. So I don't know if you want me to talk about.
Just briefly, she took off her gun, right?
She one of the officers told me that don't cry because the years that the officer was working in that department, he had never seen her fighting for someone like she did for me. And when he said that, I said, for me, you don't even know me. And she says to me, woman, I know when you get up, I know where you go, I know when you come back, I know where you work, I know that church that you go. Like she knew everything about me. And she's saying, if there's someone that I needed to stand up for, it was you, because we need people like you in our country. And
that's amazing. And the audience should know that that's very uncommon. That actually is extremely uncommon. And didn't you tell me that she actually defied her boss's orders?
Yeah,
She was told to process you for deportation, right? But she
to arrest me and take me to deport me. And that's when she said, no, if I have to leave if she had to quit at that moment, she would do it, but she wouldn't come and get me and deport me. She said no. And that's the other officer that told me that she did that. So then they gave me, my daughter called Anna.
Yeah, let Anna tell.
Yeah.
Anna, where were you? I would just like to share this with the audience before we go to questions. A couple more points, then we'll go to questions. But can you share where you were when you got that phone call?
I was in Ohio.
Where? At school, right?
Yeah, I was at Denison University, where I got a full scholarship. And I was working on my political science midterm paper for analyzing politics. And
this is politics in action.
Yeah, I was in the computer lab with my friends, and I remember like getting the call and my heart dropped, and I just I got up, I left, I emailed my professor, and I was like, I have to get on a flight to Massachusetts because ICE just showed up to my house. And I'm never gonna forget Dr. Brady, this poor man. He was like, okay, well, don't worry about your paper. I'll just give you a key. Is that okay? I'm like, I just need to go home. And
you must have been freaking out.
I was freaking out, but there's also like fight or flight mode, you know? Yeah. And so when you grow up and you know that at some point this will happen, you always prepare for it, even without knowing. So like I had saved in my savings $600 just in case something like this happened. And sure enough, I was able to charge my card and get to the next flight out of Ohio that same evening.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I know we need to move on. We will in a moment, but this relates to the issue of being a kid and having to take care of all these things and kind of help your mom through this process, right? So just a word or two about that. Like you were a kid and then, you know, young adult, and you had to sort of boost your mom up, right? And plan for this. Like you know, you had to become mature beyond your years for all this stuff, right?
Yes.
So, yeah. What was that like, just for a moment? And then I'm going to tell about how the case got resolved, and then we'll move to questions. Okay.
Yeah. To be completely honest, I think I'm still trying to make sense of it. Like, I just turned 30 a couple months ago, and
happy birthday.
Thank you. And I think that I'm teaching myself how to live, right? So how to work and do my work meaningfully, and make time for church, make time for meaningfulness, to paint. I like to paint, spend time with my grandfather without a sense of anxiety. And so it's difficult because you look back and you think to yourself, wow, like this whole time I've been working and I've always thought about work since I was a kid. I don't even know how to enjoy life. So that's what I'm trying to do now. And I say that as a child of immigrants, that children really do pay the price in a lot of ways. And when I think about kids, like we have to do the utmost that we can to make sure that we respect them and love them and nurture them, because eventually we grow up to be adults, and it's very difficult as a young woman right now to unlearn the habits that I taught myself. But again, I feel very blessed and grateful that I've always been by my mom's side. But when I see kids, I always remind myself to respect them and love them, because it's a lot for a child to live with.
There's a lot of kids in this country in that situation.
That's right.
But millions of them.
Yeah.
Well, we can fast forward. So you finally found me, and it's all in the book. I was kind of, I think, the last resort, lawyer of last resort for you, because like it was all coming to head and it seemed like you were running out of time, and they actually eventually, you wouldn't be able to keep getting your order of supervision forever. Fortunately, in the meantime, Anna had become a citizen, also filed a petition for you. But when you hired our firm, Cassie, and I from your team and my office, we were like, we have to save this family, right? And the solution was to find proof that you had done everything right, file a motion to reopen your case, to terminate your removal proceedings, your deportation proceedings, and put you back on the road to a permanent status. And the way we did that was I went into the immigration office and I sat down with your file and I found what I call the smoking gun, which was there for all those other lawyers could have found, right? The law was in, the same law was in place when you had several other people representing you. So many years had gone by, and this, just so people can see it, if you can see, can you see the return to sender envelope? Can you see return to sender? And this is the Department of Justice, the Immigration Court, when they sent Jackie that notice for the deportation hearing, it was returned back to the government because they used the wrong address. She never got notice. She never got the proper warnings that were legally required. So it was deficient. The whole deportation proceeding was deficient. So I was able to find this and use it to create the basis to pretty strongly and vehemently tell the government they had totally screwed everything up. And it was about time they fixed it for this poor woman and her family. And they agreed with us, and the government attorney agreed with us. And we jointly requested a motion to dismiss the deportation proceedings. By then, Anna had become a permanent resident, a citizen, and was able to sponsor Jackie, and we did the green card application. And then we all went out when the card came through for a really wonderful celebration.
Yes.
And I think, Anna, you were in shock. I think I think you were more shocked than your mom. Yeah.
Like, I didn't know what to say. I was just like, I do remember telling you and Emily Winterson and the lawyer working with us, like Cassie.
Yeah.
I just remember saying, like, I don't think you guys understand how you literally helped change the trajectory of my entire life. And when I mean my entire life, I mean like even the children that I don't have yet. Like this completely just a complete game changer.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. Like I didn't know if I should laugh or cry or like,
it was you. I could see that.
I remember crying a lot when we went to the judge.
Yeah.
And when he said that it was approved, and I'm crying, and I kept crying, and he's like, but she doesn't hear. Did she hear what he said? And I'm trying to tell him, like, yes, I heard you, but I'm just so excited. I kept crying, and I said, these tears, they are just joy. I'm happy. I thank you. I'm not crying now because I'm sad. It's because so many years waiting for that.
So many years. Yeah. So it was a wonderful celebration, and I couldn't be more honored to have been your lawyer and to help you reach that point, and to have you now know that everything's secure for all, and you can work through it all, Anna and Jackie and everybody else in the family, and try to put the trauma behind you. And I know it's going to take a lot of time, even though it's been a few years already since it got approved, but these things take time. But it's a really wonderful end result, and our country is so lucky to have you. And Anna ran for mayor. She's very politically active. You want to say what you do now, Anna?
Yeah, I actually work for UTech, and it's a not-for-profit that works with young adults between the ages of 17 and 25 who have who are justice involved, so who have been incarcerated or have any type of criminal backgrounds. And I work as their policy director.
That's one.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Well, I'm going to jump in. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to make sure that we have some time. You know, we're listening to your story, and it is just heart-wrenching thinking about 20 years of being in limbo, 20 years of waiting, 20 years on of not knowing if your mom was going to be there when you got home, and not knowing how you were going to survive as a 14-year-old with your 7-year-old sister. And all of that time with all of these people who should have been protecting you and guiding you and helping you, who didn't file the proper change of address, who took your money and deprived you of their assistance, and not just put you in debt, but made your case worse and created more stress and more intensity and more anxiety. All of that burden. And hearing that, it's horrifying as a bystander to know that that happens, that you can do everything right. You can file all your papers and send all those letters and still be caught up like this. And thank God for Susan. Thank God for Susan coming in and changing that narrative. Thank God that we're able to be here tonight and celebrating not just your ability to stay here and live here, but that Susan is here, that she is an agent for righteousness in this system. I want to also note, and I alluded to this at the beginning, but the kindness of the ICE officer when she came for you speaks to the character of who you have been here, that you open your home, that you open your heart, that even working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, you were the first person that anyone in your church community would turn to and if they had need, and you were right there. And when your daughters needed you, you were right there. You didn't miss a beat. You've always been a supporter of community. So we want to just thank you and acknowledge you for being that kind of a model for your daughters, that your daughters are now going out into this world and taking action and doing their part. That's huge. And I want to celebrate that. And I want to acknowledge that we as listeners, we have an onus. So I want to ask Susan, can you talk to us about what you would like to see happen with our immigration system and what we can be doing to be supporters and allies and helpers given the system that we have?
Well, I hope that everyone will see the call to action at the back of my book, because I list a lot of very concrete steps that people can take. A lot of different things you could choose to do to help immigrants one way or another. And we need to change our immigration laws and improve them, and make the system more transparent, make it more user-friendly, make sure that there's more access to justice in the system, that it's less discriminatory. There's so many changes that we need to make that it's a little bit overwhelming. But I think the best way that people can approach this, if they're not already in the world of immigration, is to rely on the expertise of some really well-respected, high-quality immigration nonprofit organizations that support immigrants and immigrants' rights. Work with one of the organizations like PAIR, or the International Institute, or the Korean Immigrant Center, or any number of others. We have so many good ones in the greater Boston area. And if possible, donate financially to one of those organizations, because they're going to advocate and help immigrants more effectively than most people can do single-handedly. And if you can't afford to make a financial contribution, there's so many great volunteer opportunities at immigration nonprofits around Boston and all over the country. And there's so much need right now. There's always been a great need, but it's growing exponentially as these international refugee crises, just keep exploding around the world between, the southern border, Afghanistan, Ukraine, and all the other places in the world that people are fleeing from. I would like to just, on a positive note, let everybody know that at least right before our program started tonight, President Biden did declare that those people who are from Ukraine, who are in the United States, are not going to be made to leave the country. He's agreed to give temporary protected status to Ukrainians in the United States. It's something. It's better than nothing. We need to help the people who are stuck outside the country, fleeing desperately, but we have a long way to go in creating programs, refugee programs for lots of people in the world, including Afghans and Ukrainians and lots of other people. But these organizations, like PAIR, that helps asylum seekers, or some of these other nonprofits that help immigrants, do God's work. They do really, really effective work. The lawyers that work for these organizations are some of the best ones. Many people choose to use their talents. Lawyers, paralegals, other staff at these organizations are so hardworking and caring, just like so many immigration lawyers in private practice are. But it's very heartening to me to see the quality of and the caliber of a lot of the people that are choosing to donate their life's work to these nonprofit organizations that help immigrants. And they're just phenomenal, and they're foregoing much larger compensation and salaries and choosing to do this work to help immigrants. And there's so many good people out there. And there are a lot of young people becoming immigration lawyers who are brilliant and hardworking. And that makes me very hopeful about the future too. Every one of us can do something to help immigrants, and in a variety of different ways. It doesn't take much. As I say in the book, sharing stories, that's why I wrote the book, to provide, an insight into real people's lives, real stories, meeting real flesh and blood people like Jackie and Anna, and hearing the real story is so enlightening. And I hope that people will take the time to get to know more immigrants, to lend a helping hand, offer assistance in any number of ways, even just helping somebody make an introduction for a job, helping them with their resume, asking them how they feel. Are they scared? That would they like help? And telling them you're glad they're here. I try to tell people I'm glad they're here a lot. And I'm glad you're here. Our country is so lucky to have you. And that's how I feel about Jackie and Anna and everybody else in my book. And I feel honored and privileged to count you as friends and former clients. And I know how amazing you are, and I want the world to see that. And that's why I wrote the book. And then there's, so I think nonprofit organizations are a really safe way to go in terms of making sure that you get proper information, and it's not, skewed, which often
Absolutely.
happens.
I also just want to say, for those who haven't gotten this book yet, it is exceptional. It is exquisite. I mean, Susan, you've done such a beautiful job of lifting up so many stories, of lifting up not just the contributions that immigrants make to our country, but the injustices that immigrants suffer and the travails that they endure going through the immigration system. And you are so humble and so quiet about your heroic role in their stories. And it is so clear the way that you honor them. And this book models for us how we might have those immigrant conversations, how we might get involved. And beautifully, you're donating all of the proceeds of this book to PAIR, to making sure that other immigrants have access to exquisite legal care, to make sure that immigrants have a chance at staying here safely. So I want to just really encourage everyone to please get this book and to continue to learn about our immigration system, to learn about the policies that are in place and the work that we need to do to dismantle the racist tactics that have been employed, and to make sure that everyone has a fair shot and everyone has a chance to find a happy home. We are just living in a great time of turmoil. And when we start to feel anxious, Anna, you spoke so beautifully about what it is like to try to dislocate yourself from that anxiety and relocate yourself in peace. And I think that all of us, when we come from an immigrant story, we have that experience, right? For many of us on this call, our ancestors came generations ago, but we still have that genetically in our beings. And part of the way that we dislocate ourselves from that anxiety and work towards peace is by helping others, is by investing, is by working. That's what both of you model. That's what you model, Susan, that you engage with that by working towards creating a better world. And so all of us on this call have a really important mission. Just you came here for a reason, to learn, and now it's time to get off of this call and grow and do our part and make the world a more just and better place, because we need more Jackies and Annas in our world. We need more Susans in our world. We need more justice in our world. And that's on all of us. So I want to just give a huge round round of applause for Susan. Thank you for the holy work that you do. Jackie and Anna, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. And all of you, thank you for being with us as we learn together and move on empowered to do our part.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, Susan. We love you.
Right back at you. So good to be with all of you. Thank you so much for having us tonight. And you know, God bless.